Hi folks. Well, we're back here at the Blue Heinz project, but today I'm going to show you, I'm going to start another little off-topic video, and we'll call it Diversions on Yale Drive. Okay, because that's our street address, Yale Drive. So I'm showing you, first of all, you can see here, you notice there's a brake light missing because we have to fix the brake light, change the bulb, and which means on these modern cars, you take half the car apart. I'll stop you here because the other day this was all apart. You remember the new TV? I showed you some pictures of the modifications to the TV cabinet in the family room. Well, the wireless aspect of that isn't working so well. So I have to run an Ethernet cable from the router to the TV, which is, the cable I bought is 90 feet long because the thing is probably 50 feet away. You got to go here and there and everywhere to get that 50 feet. So these two upper cabinets were down 2 days ago, so I could arrange to get that cable up to where the router is. It goes from, sorry I'm moving around so fast, it goes from in that access door, is that access door right there you see, goes under the area where the TV is, so it's got to go up through there, and I've already arranged, made provisions to get more cables up into the TV even though it's all in place, so that's not a problem. I've got to pull wire in a 2-inch conduit going up behind the wall so I can pull more cable. That's the easy part. Then from there I got to go across here and the other crawl space and up under the stairs that go upstairs here from the garage to the area where the router is. So enough of that. But again, that took most of a day arranging so I could pull that cable up there. It's all back together because I've got a pull string in there. Over here you see what I'm doing actually today, the olives. This is olives. We went to the wine country yesterday, the Napa Valley. And the Napa Valley in California has lots and lots of olive trees, which mostly are mission olives from when the Spaniards and the Mexicans were here earlier, way earlier in our history. That when all the missions were built here in California and stuff, they planted lots and lots of olives, and all of those were mission olives. There's still lots of those around, and I think that's the variety these are. So I added this up. I weighed these. This is about 40 pounds of olives. Right now I'm sorting them into two sizes, bigger ones and smaller ones. As you'll notice here, that white is a door for the car, the 57, that's covered up. And that's the left front, driver's, in other words, fender for the 57. It's just being stored there. There's a sound bar for the TV that hasn't gotten installed yet. And you notice here all the wrapped stuff, the black wrapped stuff, that's the exhaust for the 57, which is not really, I'm just showing you. All this other stuff, tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, there's pumpkin. Somewhere around here there's some there's beans, dried beans in a basket over there. All that stuff's from the garden, which also takes time processing all of that. Somewhere around here there's some pears, unless my wife took them and moved them or something, threw them away, whatever she did. Okay, so that's what's kind of going on here today. You see over there that white, that's bedding for the chickens. There's all kinds of diversions. But anyway, I'm going to show you this process for doing the olives. Right now I'm sorting them, and then as I move on with that, I'll kind of try and quickly show you the rest of that. All right. So more to follow. Bye. Okay, well, at least a couple hours later, they're all sorted. And this is the area where I'm going to be processing them. You see I've got a sink in here. So anyway, here they are. They're sorted. These are the smaller ones. And they're not a whole lot smaller. I mean, sorting them out is kind of one of those, make a judgment in about a split second. And these are the larger ones. So there's plus or minus 14 pounds of the larger ones and plus or minus 18 pounds of the smaller ones, medium to smaller. And here's another 5 pounds of the larger ones that my wife is going to prepare in a different way, where you actually break them open and sweeten them that way. If you try to eat one of these, it's the first and last time you'll ever do that, because they are nasty. They are terribly, terribly bitter before you do anything to them. So that's the whole purpose of what we're doing here, is to get all that bitterness out of them. And here's what I'm going to be using to do that. It is, you see it's sold here as a drain cleaner, but what it is lye, L-Y-E, lye. And you notice it says right there on the label, 100% lye. It's not Drano. You don't want to use Drano, which has lye in it, but it has something else too. This is 100% lye. So you buy this at Ace Hardware, among other places. I'm sure you can get it somewhere else. And then once you've soaked them in the lye, you have to leach all the lye back out of the olive, and that's the process that takes a number of days of rinsing. And then when you're ready to put them in a brine to store them, you make a brine out of salt and this alum, which is a pickling powder, and you put them in jars, and you can store them for years. I don't know what they say on the directions, but literally you can store them for years, number 2 or 3 anyway. And here's my recipe. If anybody's interested, put a comment, and I will. I'll put something. Maybe I'll put something. If I can add something to the description, I'll do that there. Anyway, it's a real simple recipe. Well, anyway, so later on, what I'm going to do now is kind of get this ready, because you need to put the olives in that lye solution that you make for 12 hours. It's a rough, you estimate how long it's going to take for the lye to get to the center of the olive and get rid of all that bitterness. The recipe says 8 hours, and I did that once and it worked. The next time I did it, they were still bitter. So getting a little more experienced information after that, the guy that I talked to says I almost never do them less than 12 hours. And since I've been doing them 12 hours, they're consistently, that's enough. If it's not enough, you got to make that batch all over again and do it for another couple hours, 3, whatever. Try and get all the rest of the bitter out. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here now is get this ready, and maybe like 10 o'clock tonight, 11 o'clock tonight, make the solution and put them in the solution. So 12 hours later, which will be 10 or 11 a.m., then you dump them and you start the rinsing process. So that's what I'm doing right now. You see, I've got them all sitting here ready to go. These round things you see here are when you put the water in there and you put the olives in the water, they all want to float. So you put the wood thing on the top. It's like a 2-layer wood disc, and it almost floats too, but it goes into the water enough to keep the olives submerged. So that's the process, and I'll show you that when I start it too. So later. Okay, are you guys ready? Here goes. Okay, I've already measured out the lye that I'm going to use. It said, the recipe says 3 tablespoons for each gallon of water. I'm going to try 2.5 gallons of water. You see, that's right there. I'm going to try 2.5 gallons of water with that much olives, that first container over there. So what I've done is I've got 7.5 tablespoons. Did I say that earlier? Tablespoons. 3 tablespoons per gallon. 7.5 tablespoons of lye to put in this water. By the way, the lye is caustic, so you should be wearing gloves if you're going to handle the solution. I don't plan on handling the solution, so I didn't put gloves on, but if you feel like, that's a good idea, I suppose, for safety. Now, when you put the lye in the water, be careful because it reacts to the water. And that's one thing I learned um, in the course of doing this a few times. Uh, put the lye in the water and then the olives. Don't put the olives in and then the lye, because the lye gets hot. It creates heat when it hits the water. If you put the lye in the water like a small container, you can't hold the container. That's how hot the container gets. So put the lye in the water, stir it up, and then put the olives. Because I did one batch one time, the olives were soft. Because in essence, what it did was kind of cooked some of the olives. By the way, it is 10 p.m. right now. So the idea is at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow to remove these, so they will have been exposed for 12 hours. You'll see this water when we take the olives out tomorrow, the water will be brown. That's what it happens when it reacts to the olives. Okay, let's see if these are going to fit in there. Perfect. Perfect. Have a dowel. Now we're going to put one of these on the top just to make sure all the olives stay in the water. Olives, a little less volume of olives, a little less. These were, I forgot what it was, how many pounds, a couple of pounds less. Okay. Okay. I'm going to put a couple of lids on it just to keep any bugs or whatever out of it. I would say if you're going to do this, make sure you get containers that are food grade. You know, you use different kinds of buckets. The lye might leach something out of the plastic. So you probably want to be careful with that. All right, I think we're done. I'm going to turn you guys off. Come back tomorrow morning. I see you in 12 hours. Good night. Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's try this again. This is take 2. I did this once already with that this container, and ran out of memory about 2/3 of the way through. So we're going to try it again. We got another container. Luckily, I noticed before I was done. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I'll do it again on this one. Again, it is roughly 11 o'clock. No, actually, right now it's a little past 11. So these have been soaking here for 13 plus hours. The other ones, the first batch, was just under 13 hours. Again, the recipe calls for 8 hours. I did it that way the very first time, and it worked. The next time I did 8 hours, the olives were a little bitter. I had to make another solution and soak them some more. And I asked for some advice from a guy online that does this, has been doing this long term. And he said he almost never goes under 12 hours. So I've adopted that regimen, and I do them 12 or more. And since doing that on every other process, I haven't never had a problem, because you know, if you do them and the olives are a little bitter, no one wants to eat them. They're not that good. It's not fun eating an olive that's bitter. So anyway, here goes. You need these two devices to do these two, things to do what I'm going to do. I scoop them out with this, and I use this to rinse them. I rinse them under running water once I get them all out of the container. So here goes. So I get as many out of the big container with this, and when it isn't scooping very many anymore, then I put the colander in the sink and pour the solution out of the big vessel here into the colander, so it collects the rest of the olive. We're about there now. I'm getting about half of a container. Yeah, that's it. Okay, we're gonna go pour the rest of this out into the colander here in the sink. Again, you got to be careful with this stuff because it's caustic. Here goes. Okay. Stem. Oh, this is good for your drain, I'm sure. Okay. I'm going to rinse this out so I can start dumping them back in here. As you can see, this sink is a little small for this. But we make it work. Okay, put this back over here. As you rinse the olives under the clear water, and you can see it's washing the solution off because the water comes out of the off the olives, still that brown color, and it makes a lot of foam in the sink. So you know the solution's still on there. That's why I say it takes multiple rinses to get it all off and out of the olives, the lye solution. Okay. This thing is too full, it's hard to pour. Yep, sink's getting all foamy. Okay. In the interest of keeping this short, I'm going to turn you guys off temporarily. I'll bring you back on when I'm refilling the vessel with water. Okay, we're refilling the little transfer container so we can put water back in there. Give it a stir. It appears maybe that one way you can tell if the lye has reached the center of the olive is the fact that they aren't floating anymore. So, you know, there's at least some fluid in the meat of the olive. It's making them heavier. Yeah, none of them are floating, it would appear. That's a good sign, I would say. A good sign that the solution has penetrated the skin of the olive, which is what you want to get rid of the bitter. Anyway, I think we're done at this point. My plan is to edit and post this much of this process. Otherwise, this video is going to be, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes long. So I'm going to edit and post this much of the process, and then I'll keep rinsing these. I'm going to do the same process that you just saw at least 4 more times, maybe more. I might do a couple of them twice a day just to speed the process a bit. So I'm going to do them at least 4 more times, and then I will show you what happens next when you do the final rinse and you make the brine and you put them in the bottles. All right, so till next time, enjoy. Bye. Okay. Well, back on the diversions theme, you can see the taillight got put back on with the new lamp. And along with processing the olives, we're in the middle of installing that cable I was telling you about that goes from the new TV to the router, or the other way around. And this is the area I was telling you that is up under the TV. You see that conduit up there where this cable is going? I just pulled that up, and right now it's in the back of the TV. It's not plugged in yet, but it's got a lot, plenty of length to reach there for the TV to move around on its hanger. So you notice the other white cable coming out and running up here. I'm gonna match that. I'm gonna tie wrap it, zip tie it to that cable. That's an antenna lead. And it goes essentially, it goes 2/3 of the way where I need this one to go. And then after that, I'll run it individually. So that's where I'm at right now. That cable is going to end up, you notice here, I'm in the other access opening under the house. That cable is going to end up coming through here. And it'll go along that wall. And you see where that black device is there on that shelf. I don't know if you can tell, all those cables are going through the wall right over there on the left hand side of that. That's where this cable has to go to. And then from there it goes, probably really don't need to know this, but just so you're familiar with what's going on. Goes over here under the stairs. You see those cables in there. I don't know if there's enough light for you to see that. There's some cables going through there, and they go inside this wall and up into the room where the router is.